John Hume says he won't run for president. My duty, he says, is to the peace process. Extradition proceedings begin in a court in London against John Gilligan. And President Robinson makes her final visit to the north before leaving office. Good evening. The leader of the SDLP, John Hume, has announced that he will not be seeking a nomination for the presidency. Mr. Hume, who'd been suggested as an agreed candidate to succeed President Robinson, said he was ruling himself out of the race because the peace process in the north was now at a crucial stage. It was, he said, a difficult decision. The Taoiseach, Bertie Ahern, said he understood, and he said all those seeking the Fianna Fáil nomination should declare their candidacy by Saturday. The Taoiseach Mary Harney said she was disappointed. The Progressive Democrats, she said, would discuss the issue at their party meeting on Wednesday. Fine Gael said Mr. Hume's decision was perfectly understandable. Well, joining us now from Derry is John Hume. Good evening, Mr. Hume. I think we've some difficulty making contact with Derry. I think we can go to our political correspondent, Una Claffey, who joins us from Leinster House. Una, a very good evening to you.
Hello, Brian.
Well, now, what do you think this, how does this leave the presidency, and what will be the issues which will be in the minds of the party leaders and their advisers tonight?
Well, it leaves the presidency, obviously, in a situation where there will be an election, and I think it's the view of many people, including the Taoiseach, that that is what should happen, that the people want an election and should have an election. And, of course, it's also what outgoing President Mary Robinson said should happen when she first announced that she was stepping down. Obviously, the simplest thing will be what's uppermost in the political parties' minds, and that is to select a candidate who can win. As you know, not all of the parties have the strength to nominate a candidate. The Labour Party, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, in fact, are the only three who on their own can nominate a candidate. Now, already the Labour Party has been requested to support the candidature of Senator David Norris, but I understand the party is not going to do that. But it's going to be 2 weeks before we see the final, if you like, shakeout in terms of nominations or nominees.
Looking first of all, Una, at the situation in relation to Fianna Fáil, just how much of a lead, if it be a lead, does Albert Reynolds have?
Well, the opinion polls, as we saw them, gave John Hume a substantial lead over Albert Reynolds, but in terms of the amount of work that Albert Reynolds has been doing within the party, and as of now there's only one other declared candidate in Fianna Fáil, and that's Michael O'Kennedy, it seems that he does have a lead. But as you know, nominations haven't closed yet, so we don't know if there might be another candidate.
We know that there will be a contest within Fine Gael. What's your assessment of the situation there?
Well, the two people who look like being interested within Fine Gael are two women candidates, Mary Benotti, who's been an MEP for the last 12 years, and Avril Doyle, who lost her seat in the last election in the Dáil, but is currently a senator and, of course, was a junior minister in the last government. So I think that'll be a fairly closely fought contest. It might be thought that Mary Benotti might have the edge in terms of having the common touch, and in that sense perhaps being more akin to Mary Robinson. But then again, she's been in the European Parliament for 12 years and would not be very well known outside Dublin, it's thought, within the party. So I think they've got a fair amount of soul searching to do also.
Well, now, Dick Spring made it pretty clear towards the end of last month that if John Hume wasn't prepared to go as an agreed candidate, then as far as he was concerned, Labour would make sure there was a contest. Will he, though, be looking inside or outside the party for a candidate, do you think? Well,
we understand that Michael D. Higgins has expressed some interest in it, although I understand that he hasn't as yet told his party leader that he's interested in it. There is a difficulty for Labour. As you know, they lost a considerable number of seats in the last general election, and to have to fight a by-election would pose considerable problems for them. It's very unlikely that they would hold that seat in Galway West. And another one of their stalwarts, Jim Kemmy, is currently seriously ill, so the strength of the parliamentary party is somewhat depleted. It's also felt that having had the success they had with Mary Robinson the last time out, that they would like to see a person who, if you like, might be seen as not just a politician to stand. And I know that the party is interested in two other people, but they're being absolutely tight-lipped as to who those two other people might be. So they're going to take a while also to decide. I mean, to some extent it's not entirely within their control, obviously, if they're approaching other people.
All right, Una, thank you very much for joining us with that. Now, I gather we can speak to John Hume in Derry. You're hearing us, are you, John Hume?
Yes, I am.
You said it was a difficult decision. What finally decided you not to seek the nomination?
It was a very difficult decision indeed. It was one of the most difficult decisions I've ever had to take, because there is no doubting the great honour that it would be to be President of Ireland, particularly as an agreed candidate. And I was very moved by the mass of letters I received from people right across the country, north and south, and from abroad, urging me to accept it. But there were reasons in the other direction as well, because my whole adult life, as I've said in the statement, together with my colleagues in the SDLP, has been devoted to resolving the crisis here in the north. And that's now at a very crucial stage. And I believe, therefore, it's my duty to stay here and to use all our energies to achieve the lasting peace and lasting settlement that all sections of our people want.
Were you at all concerned that it wasn't at all clear that you could be an agreed candidate, that the situation down here made that far from certain?
No, I was making my decision on the basis that I would be an agreed candidate. I had had contacts from different parties and all the rest of it, and there was all the media speculation, and that's exactly what I was considering.
Had you spoken, for example, to the Taoiseach, to Bertie Ahern?
No, I didn't. Senior members of all the parties contacted me at different times. I didn't discuss the matter with the Taoiseach.
You'll know, of course, that Albert Reynolds has made it quite clear that he would seek the nomination. Under any circumstances, would you have contested the nomination with Albert Reynolds?
Well, as I'm saying, first of all, we in the SDLP, throughout the last 25 years, have never once intervened in internal party politics in the South, for very obvious reasons. We want to work with all, in relation to the North, we want to work with all parties and have a common approach. Because if we intervene in the internal politics of the South, that only makes the approach to the North far more difficult and the resolution more difficult. So what we've been doing is building a common approach with all parties for that reason, and that would have governed. I wasn't considering that at all. I was considering the strong suggestion from all quarters that I be an agreed candidate for the presidency, which was a great honour. But as I've said, and there were good reasons for it, but as I've said, there was also very good reasons why I should stay where I am at the present time.
What did you make?
That's the decision I've taken, and it was a very difficult decision.
What did you make of the debate here about the necessity or otherwise for an election? The President herself expressed a preference that there be an election because that in itself strengthens and gives a clear mandate to whoever takes the office.
Well, obviously, that's at the end of the day what democracy is about. And if there is different points of view about the nature of the presidency and who should be president, then those different points of view have to be answered by the electorate. What I was considering was a suggestion that the differing parties would have me as an agreed candidate. And of course the reasons for that are obvious. I mean, I would have been the first northerner for a start. And of course, throughout the last 25 years, as I've already said, from the government of Jack Lynch right onwards, I have worked with every government from every party in the Dáil, and have very good relations with all of them, because that's necessary for dealing with the situation in the North. And that may have been the reason why the suggestions came forth from the different parties about agreed candidature. I don't know. But I have considered it. I have made up my mind. It was a difficult decision. I'm grateful to those who suggested it to me, but as I've said, I believe I should remain here at this very crucial time.
Just a final question. Were you stung at all by the criticism made by some here that you wouldn't be a suitable candidate because you were a northerner?
I find that very strange, to say, and I think a lot of people in the North have mentioned that to me as well. They find it very strange that partitionist attitude and the depth of it expressed by some people in the South. Whereas here in the North, I mean, my own people here in Derry, when I'm walking the streets, they were very moved by the thought that a Derryman, the first Derryman to become President of Ireland, moved them a lot. It was a very strong emotional argument for me as well.
John Hume, thank you very much for joining us from Derry on 6-1 tonight. John Hume's decision has important implications, as we've been hearing, for the political parties here. Our special correspondent Charlie Bird has been getting their reaction. He spoke first to Sean Barrett of Fine Gael.
Leinster House may be only gearing up for the return of the Dáil on Wednesday for the special debate on the McCracken report. But behind the scenes, the political parties have been waiting patiently for the past week or so for John Hume's decision. But the SDLP leader's announcement this afternoon that he's not seeking a nomination for the presidency has been greeted with disappointment, even though there was some annoyance that he was taking so long to make up his mind.
Well, one would have to respect his decision. He gave the suggestion obviously a lot of consideration, and in accordance with his statement, he said he feels it's his duty to remain with the SDLP, given that the crucial talks will begin next week, and one has to respect that decision. He obviously, as I said, gave it a lot of consideration.
It means now the contest is going to go ahead, isn't that right?
It means now that Fine Gael and presumably other parties will put forward candidates. We'll be meeting shortly to decide on our candidates. As you know, we have two excellent candidates going before the parliamentary party, Mary Benotti and Avril Doyle. So whoever the parliamentary party select, we will fully support and fight this contest tooth and nail. Today's decision by Mr. Hume means the political parties can now get on with the business of selecting their own candidates. For Fianna Fáil, the former Taoiseach Albert Reynolds and Michael O'Kennedy have already thrown their hats into the ring. There's also continuing speculation that Máire Geoghegan Quinn may be interested in the post. Fine Gael have two candidates, MEP Mary Benotti and former Junior Minister Avril Doyle. At the moment, the front-runner for the Labour Party is Michael D. Higgins, although a number of independent TDs and senators and the Green Party, who are sponsoring the independent Senator David Norris for the Áras, are trying to encourage Labour to support him. And within the past few minutes, the Taoiseach, Mr. Ahern, has given me his response to John Hume's decision.
Well, I fully respect his decision. I'd have to say, I suppose like all political leaders, it was awaited for some time, because if he entered the race, I think it would have changed things for a lot of parties. To what extent, nobody will ever know. But I felt for some time, from a conversation I had with him some months ago, and towards the start of the resumed ceasefire, that he still felt extremely committed to the talks process that starts next week. And clearly that is, I think, his only reason for not going.
Is it now going to create problems for Fianna Fáil that you're going to have a contest and it's going to be a difficult one for you?
No, it's every election is difficult, and from our point of view now, we will move, as I'd said back in late June, we would have our contest within our party, if that was the relevant thing to do, in mid-September. We'll have it on, I think, Wednesday of next week. I would ask any of my colleagues within the parliamentary party or outside it to declare by Saturday. We should know by Saturday. I think, in fairness to our parliamentary party, we'll make the decision. And then we'll have a contest next week. We'll select our candidate to run for the presidency, and we'll pick our director of elections, and we'll get on with the campaign for the next 6 weeks.
Now, the rest of this evening's news.